and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Nerdherder.
You can't say funny stuff right
where
before we go.
Boop hates Coldplay, apparently.
I hate Coldplay. Listen, okay, it's not that I hate Coldplay. I was just never actively listened to Coldplay, personally.
So it's not like a U2 situation where...
No, U2 sucks.
Garbage.
I hate U2. But, like, yeah, every time I've listened to Coldplay, I've been subjected to Coldplay. And I've just never enjoyed it.
Coldplay without consent is not great.
Mutual consent to Coldplay.
Mutual Coldplay. I'm into it. Well, as has been mentioned, this is the Boop that hates Coldplay. I'm J-Dub, and
hello.
Welcome to another episode of Nerdherder, where we talk about things we like, mostly Star Wars and all kinds of other things. I realize I don't like intro.
That's fine.
Half the time. So if you're ever just starting in, God bless you. I don't know that we have a good point to start in.
No,
but
not at this point.
You know what? I think it's just like the deep end where you learn to swim. You just go for it, and hopefully stay in for the ride. We have a good time week after week, and that's because we just get to talk with our friends and get encouraged to do so.
I know.
And I do apologize to the tens of people listening that were disappointed that we didn't premiere at our usual time. It is Saturday, my dudes, when we are live with this. Normally, you can join us live on Fridays over on the YouTubes, but yesterday was a day in a long series of days that have been my life.
Ooh, has it been a day?
I don't know if anybody else out there can relate, but it's been... one of those days for a while now.
Yes.
But nonetheless, we persevered, survived, and rescheduled, and now we're here to have fun. And for an episode, I'm surprised, honestly, Boop, you're not like off the hinges for.
Well, I am off hinge internally.
I just can't see it
permanently.
Yes. I was gonna say because yeah,
I'm not sure I have hinges.
This is like
days.
Your episode. I'm surprised it took us 117 episodes. Technically, this is episode 283 in total.
Good God.
But yeah,
thank you for lowering your standards.
It took us so long to get to this point, but we're finally here. And with not a petition at all from you.
Listen, it's not that I haven't asked about this. It's that I don't know if I can properly convey my feelings about Darth Maul other than just...
You said the thing. Well, I'll give you exactly 1 minute and 32 seconds to think about it while I remind our dear listeners what we're talking about tonight.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Ahsoka! I brought help!
Marr.
The shadow.
Always remember I am fear. Always remember I am a hunter. It has been so long, my path has been so dark. Darker than I ever dreamed it could be. No, and yet you survived.
You have been well trained, my young apprentice. They will be no match for you.
Fun!
What fun!
Darth Darth Maul. Yes,
Darth-
and a wild Brad has appeared.
Surprise. He came in through the tall grass.
I was about to
Yes.
say, is that more? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be tall grass or like the Snorlax, just kind of sleeping in the way of everything. You
I
gotta
would
find a way to wake me.
I would
It's better than a
absolutely be a Snorlax.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back.
Always.
And yeah, so if you checked out our promo, then you would know also that Kev, the other half,
Who?
the lovely half of Force Losers podcast, was
Is he
to
still in
join
the
us.
crate?
But no, he hissed at me, and
Oh.
I had to put him back in the back.
It's true.
I know it's because we keep him in the back of the podcast room so much, but
He's gone feral.
honestly, yeah, I just think it's gone to his head. So
If you
Did
like roll a dumbbell in front of him, that usually wakes him up.
right, just a little.
Yeah. Did you give him his
Yeah.
heart guard?
I did not.
Dang it. It's
You
gonna
know
get
what?
warm.
Give
He's
him that.
probably
Give him
got
that
the
belt.
worms.
That belt of his for his sternum.
But it's okay because nevertheless we persevere with the other half, the amazing Bradley. We blew our budget on getting you in here, so thank you for joining us yet again.
Of course.
Um,
Always a
this,
pleasure.
yeah, well, for sure. Well, and this was another one you were an eager beaver for.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, like confession, like last month the 19th rolled around and I was like, all right, I'm so ready for this. And then like I waited, I was like, never heard from anyone. I was like, what happened? And then I really looked at the schedule and I was like, oh God,
Oh, no.
next month.
next month.
That's
Right.
adorable.
Not to say that we haven't done that.
I
before.
was
I was excited.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've found that the difficult thing for me, and because we have episodes fairly hard and fast nailed down through December,
Yeah.
and we have guests either confirmed or in the process for all of those. And so that's great for my planning side, but for my promoting side, when it comes to talking about it, it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
wait, what are we doing? Because I was just thinking about the Ewoks we're talking about in 2 months.
I don't
Like
even know what we're talking
Yeah.
about next week,
it,
man.
it all lives in here, and it all wants to come out at the same time. So
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
no. I do know what we're talking about next week. Never mind.
yes,
You'll have to wait till the end of the episode for that one.
yes. Go ahead and temper your expectations. Again, I remind you, it's been a week, so there's not a nearly as good promo as there was for Maul. But
No.
here's the thing: if you know us, you know we love Maul, and so he was never going to get anything less than the best.
No.
Oh,
for
yeah.
that.
Never. He is the most complex character.
And again, if anybody's wondering why the promos, that's exactly why. Is like I'm trying to prepare them ahead of time so that each week gets a good promo, so my gobbledygook brain doesn't have to be dependent on too much.
Was that technically an AMV?
I think so, because Clone Wars and Rebels were both in it, which is animated. And also, while I'm at it, shout out to Samuel Kim, who produces
Yes.
fan-made Star Wars music. That's his music, his
Spectacular music.
epic edition of Duel of Fates. And so you can find him on YouTube, Spotify. It's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't replace the original, and it doesn't intend to. It's just another version of it, and it's great. There's also a really, really awesome Mandalorian crossover with Rocky. That's really good.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Carol of the Bells meets Empire, the Imperial March. He's got it. So go check out Samuel Kim, because I used their music for a quick AMV.
Is Rocky an Earthling Mandalorian?
I could see
sounds
that.
Cool.
I wouldn't mind a Sly Stallone in a Star Wars.
I wouldn't mind at
Yeah.
all. Maybe he is the live action Savage Opress,
No.
brother of Darth Maul.
I don't think so.
No, but it's a segue. So yeah, like I said, we are big fans here at Nerdherder over Maul. And again, I'm surprised it took us so long to get here, but
Me too, honestly.
this is a new series we've started last month with Kenobi.
I'm sorry, you didn't say it right.
Kenobi.
There you go. That's better.
We were looking at creative ways to talk about the new editions of the character's story, other than just another Obi-Wan Kenobi show review, and that birthed this kind of series of kind of character study where we just sit down and really talk about some of our favorite characters. That said, anybody listening, you can find us on social media and check out Twitter and Instagram and let us know who would you want to get a
Yeah.
next character spotlight.
You can go on our Twitter and see where I forgot which account that I was.
Yes, what
logged
exactly?
into.
Just for clarity, what are we talking about tonight, Boop?
We're talking about middies.
Middies, Maul titties.
Exactly. That man. God didn't need to give him so much tit, but here we are.
Here we are. I just love the fact that, and I do believe shirtless Maul came first, but I do
Yes.
appreciate that we have Darth Maul and Darth Talon getting the equal amount of
I know.
shown skin.
Here's the thing, okay. Technically, we can thank Pre-Vizsla for his slut era if we want to really get into it, because he gave him the open shirt.
Well, Star Wars Infinity's the comic series that first resurrected Maul
Also
in
very true.
a what if here. Can I just say to everybody that's clamoring and it comes out every like 6 weeks, like they should do a Star Wars what if? Shut up, they did
They
it.
did it.
It's a
I was about to
comic.
say.
Like if you can't read, I'm sorry, but if you can, go check out Star Wars Infinities.
Ableist.
I trust me, I wish they would revisit and do more of that series. But if you want to know some wacky, crazy, off the wall what if stories centered around the original trilogy, Star Wars Infinities is there for you. And so yeah, 2002 we got shirtless Maul.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that
Didn't we?
led to Darth Talon or what.
Well, because I know like Maul coming back with Darth Talon was part of George Lucas's original plan for the sequels.
Yes. Coming back as the godfather of crime, in his own words. So it's interesting
Good for
how
him.
parts of George's ideas have seeded what we get, because I do think, as we'll talk through the journey of the character, there's a lot of points where there's undue fan criticism because Maul wouldn't do that, quote unquote. When you've got George over here, just like,
yeah, he would.
I think he would make a good godfather. I think he would just run a great underworld, and
And then he did
and he did.
twice.
But yeah, and it's interesting too, because that's another instance of George Lucas looking at a Twi'lek character in the comics and being like, I want to put her in a movie, because that's how Ayla Secura came about. That's a comic book character that he saw on the cover of a comic and was like, I'm going to put that in a movie. And so
He's got a thing for Leku, man.
who doesn't?
Like,
and
you are
so
awesome.
for for everyone, whatever you're into, you've got Maul, Talon, Savage, whatever you want.
Here's the thing. Savage has the voice of Clancy Brown.
That he does. Which I think was fantastic casting when you're looking at, because I think that's what, if you heard the name Maul, Savage is closer to what most people might fan draw or fan cast as a character, ferocious, unstoppable, angry.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we get this tight, small little package of a man with severe anger issues and an obsession with a blue-eyed Scotsman. And you know what? I love him for it. So that said, let's go ahead and get into it. And if you can, rewind with me back to 1999 when The Phantom Menace hits theaters. And
oh God, that is when it hit
technically you could go back to 1998 when the first trailer dropped, because it was not a surprise that we were getting a new quote unquote Sith, and it was definitely not a surprise that he would have 2 lightsabers. So thanks, trailers, for spoiling that. But nonetheless, you're there consuming it in the theater. Darth Maul shows up. What were your feelings? Boop.
I wasn't invited. I didn't go to the theater. My dad took my brothers, but I wasn't invited.
Which one was the one? It was Revenge of the Sith. Was the first you saw?
Sith. My dad took us out of school to go see Revenge of the Sith. And
that
was my first Star Wars.
Do you remember how you first watched Episode 1?
VHS, baby.
Okay, I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't sure if it was later down the road
Yeah.
or what. So
Yeah, it was definitely a few years later, obviously. I remember watching it before watching Revenge of the Sith because I needed context. But yeah, I listen. I was not a Star Wars fan for a very long time, but the one thing that did stick with me for that entire childhood, let's see, I'd say maybe I was like 12. No, not even. I was like 8 up into how old was I in 2015? 7, 18?
20.
Yeah, I was 20. Thank you. Yeah, the one thing that stuck with me was Darth Maul. There is something so powerful about that introduction of just a man from the shadows who looks like Satan. Love that for him. It's a great look.
It still impresses me what they were able to, like, that they got that across just for the time period. Like, by the time of the Clone Wars and the resurrection of him, and even in the comics, yeah, you get away with that. But I mean, there was such a time I would never have thought, like, no, we're not going to get Darth Talon in film. They wouldn't really go for that something that scandalous or whatnot. But yeah, we basically had the devil fighting Jesus in
So
episode
cool.
1.
And like, I didn't care when I first watched it. I was like, this is movie. Yes, I watch movie. You know, 8 years old. I did not have a concept of film. I still don't technically, if we want to get into it. I hate film. But yes, that was what stuck out to me at first. And then you get to Duel of Fates. And you get the sexiest lightsaber reveal of all time. It is so cool that just the turning over and the double oh my gosh, that is so neat. And that is, I think, one of the only words you can use to describe it.
Oh yeah,
neat. That is
Yeah,
so
neat.
small,
Neat.
but so neat. And then you get the best lightsaber fight of all time. I'm going to. You can stamp that.
Boop
approved.
stamped.
Boop stamped. Best lightsaber fight of all time has yet to be topped in my mind.
I'll get in. I'll get into that, but I don't disagree.
Wow.
Brad, what about you? Taking it back.
I mean, because I didn't watch the trailers. I didn't watch it in theaters either. I ended up watching it when my parents brought the VHS home one day. It was my dad. My mom was never like a big Star Wars fan, but my dad, who's only 20 years older than me, he was. So like watching that part, I lost my mind about the two lightsabers because that was never shown to me. And I was like, wait, you can wield two?
Right. It's just like,
holy
of course you could, but like none of us had ever thought of that.
But you know, like, I want to say that like watching the original trilogy, you only ever get 2 Sith, and it's, you know, the big guy dressed up in black armor versus this old man who's like half decrepit wearing a cloak. And you know, it was a big, like, the how much effort that was put into the reveal of Maul, because he's teased the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then you get the one fight on Tatooine that's interrupted. And now you get, and it was a 1v1, and now you're getting a 1v2. And, you know, his answer is more lightsaber.
Yes.
Which is,
right. It's like, oh, again, I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, and you antiquate it to, like, you know, basically looking like the devil and everything. And honestly, I feel like, I remember I heard somewhere that when they were filming the original trilogy, I believe it was A New Hope, you know, when they're talking, like someone was talking to George Lucas about, oh, well, I mean, what are you going to do to really like show that Darth Vader is this big bad guy? And, you know, like Lucas's response was, well, he's going to be wearing all black armor. Everything around him is going to be white. And we're going to have scary music playing when he walks in.
Amazing.
And he's like, that's good enough. So I feel like, you know, he had so much build up for Maul. Everyone else was just kind of, hey, this is a character. I mean, there was no build up. I think even with the Emperor, he was just like talked about, and then he just showed up. So I mean, the fact that you got, like, throughout the movie, you got the conversations between the Emperor and Maul, this apprentice before Vader. And then suddenly, you know, again, just Duel of Fates drops, the door opens slowly. It's like the entrance that every person ever wants when they want to make an epic entrance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like
Oh,
if I open a door and just somewhere randomly Duel of Fate starts playing, I'm going to take the stance.
Oh, right.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Well,
A double-bladed lightsaber will like vaporize into your hand.
Yes.
I love the thought of Maul waiting too patiently behind the door of just like, what if they pick another door or something? You know, it's like
What if they take the long one?
the drama queen that he is.
Of course.
But no, so yeah, I agree with you in that I like that they took the route of really making you wonder how he's going to stack up, like whether that was on the forefront or the back of your mind. Like how's he going to compare?
What can this new guy do?
Exactly.
It's like a new kid in the playground. You're like, what's this guy gonna do?
Yep.
He's gonna beat up the biggest kid in the playground.
Yeah.
And they kill your dad.
He's gonna do a total power move. He's gonna pick the biggest kid. He's gonna beat the hell out of him, and then he's going to eventually lose.
Right.
Yeah, and get cut in half. You do.
But yeah, like they add a little bit each time.
Mhm.
You know, it's almost 24 minutes in when it's finally all right. Here's Darth Maul,
Mhm.
and that's the first really big thing because like Sidious shows up, we assume and can know who that is just from no introduction, but he's not really
Yeah.
introduced. Darth Maul gets introduced,
Mhm.
and then yeah, like I guess they tried to hide the fact that he had a double-bladed lightsaber by having him use half of it.
But no, it's a really long lightsaber.
I mean,
yeah, I'm about to say, but his hilt is still like he still wields it with two hands.
Mhm.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like it could almost pass in the sense because there are not javelins, but there is a Japanese weapon that's
Yeah.
just like a katana length blade on the end of a much longer handle. It is a two-handed sword.
I want to say Legato for some
and
reason.
Might
I
be-
think Jay is sticking in my brain, but it does have vibes of that. So maybe they were,
Yeah.
I don't know, but nonetheless, even knowing what was coming, because I was excited, I was already into Star Wars. Every time the trailer
Nerd.
came on, it was a stop everything because it's only on when it's on. I can't look this up
Mhm.
on the internet. There's no recording. Well, there is, but obviously you're not going to get it in time.
No.
And so everything stopped whenever the trailer came up, and I was excited all the way up. And even still, that moment hit so
Mhm.
hard.
Like you've seen me come from other places in the house when I know that the first notes of Duel of Fate is
Yeah.
about to hit,
Mhm.
and I'll just stand behind you and watch the entire
Well, and
lightsaber fight.
in addition to our favorite Star Wars film, it's also a big comfort film too. And so, but no matter what varying degree of attention the rest of the film gets, Duel of Fates, from the moment that
Mhm.
they walk up, like, as soon as he tells Annie, "Stay in that cockpit," at that point, I'm
Mhm.
in. And there's no looking back because it is the most gripping lightsaber battle. And so you can judge a lightsaber battle, I think, on many, many things, but I think with this one, because, and I know retroactively, Dave Filoni and other commentators have put a lot of emphasis on this battle emotionally. It is for the fate of Anakin.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I don't step on that, but by and large, it is the most dissociated lightsaber battle, I think, of most Star Wars.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is the implications of this lightsaber battle aren't uh, only and exclusively in the lightsaber battle.
Yeah.
Like Luke
Mhm.
losing to his father on Bespin, the L is felt there.
Yeah.
If Luke fails to save his father, he and possibly his father also are going to die on the Death Star too. Like there's mortal danger in most of them. And in episode 1, there is mortal danger only to Qui-Gon because we know what happens to Obi-Wan. But even still, the effects of that battle weren't felt until many, many years later. And so I think the emphasis, like people talk about the flash and the awe of the Battle of the Heroes in episode 3. This one, I think, came out all gears turning for like, this has to be spectacular. This has to be intense. Like this has to be something new and special, and it has to grip people instantly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say, is that it has to be gripping, because you're taking a franchise that, you know, they came out the original trilogy, and then it was how many years later before they came out with Phantom
22.
Menace? Yeah, you have people who've either A, waited 22 years to see more, or B, thought that it was done and over with. So you have to be gripping, you have to be compelling. And something that I've always thought of is there are 3 people fighting for the fate of Anakin, each one with their own, you know, conclusion to his fate. You have Maul, who's either, I mean, he'll probably either kill Anakin or bring him to Sidious, depending on what he's been told. You have Qui-Gon, who wants to train him to be a Jedi, which a lot of people think ultimately would have kept Anakin from falling to the dark side. And then you have Kenobi, who was ultimately the one who came out victorious in that. And, you know, he was made a Jedi, but he eventually fell. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like Duel of the Fate, it is, it has implications. And I think it's definitely a perspective to have. But like I said, I think that because it's much more like, for me, when, you know, as soon as Qui-Gon's like, we'll handle this, like this was their goal, him and Obi-Wan, like we're going to find the Sith and face the Sith. This is a Jedi versus Sith business kind of thing. And second to that, I think, is the personal implications. But I mean, either way, it doesn't take away, because I mean, you instantly have that music kick in, which I don't think we've ever. It set a precedent, because now we have like battle theme music in Star Wars. I don't really think that was too much of a thing. There was the like really emotional moment when Luke lashes out at Vader in episode 6, but and there's the Force theme at the tail end of Vader versus Obi-Wan, if you can call it a fight, in A New Hope.
I call it a distraction, personally.
Right. Yeah. Well, so there's the music comes in at the key emotional moments, but this is the first time instantly I like somebody hit the tape deck because it's going down. And I think it's better for it, because like all of that couples together for that moment. So good.
There are very few songs that have that kind of power over a mood. And oh my god, in film and TV, you know, it's either Bohemian Rhapsody or Duel of Fates. Those are 2 songs that you can play that will make me instantly pumped for anything you have going on.
And they oddly sound very similar when sung.
Mama.
And I'll say, like, I think about it every time I watch it, and that's often, and like I said, it gets my full attention. But I think
that
about
scene in Wayne's World is spectacular. Oh, you mean Star Wars?
Like the perfect combo for a duel, man, is red, green, blue. Like it look like there's something so nice about the aesthetic of all of those colors clashing at once. Like I don't know what it is about seeing Maul take on 2 Jedi at once. Like the dance that it is just so mesmerizing.
And the fact that he took on 2 Jedi at once, both a master and an apprentice.
Pretty handily too.
Oh, for sure. Well, and Clone Wars later shows, like, the reason he was able to do it is he was very well trained. Like, Palpatine is a master swordsman. He just doesn't. It's not his tool.
It's not his preferred.
Exactly.
And he directly trained Maul from a very young age to be able to do that. And that's the thing. You see, he's formed as the weapon because he's going out and doing his master's bidding. His master doesn't do the fighting, so he has to be able to handle
anything.
2 Jedi.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be ready to face master and apprentice. The odds of you finding just one are slim, so you need to take on both.
Because this was also when the Jedi were probably at their most numerous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, for sure.
And I mean, I remember we do know that Sidious has said that he was trained in forms of combat for both the light and the dark side. So
Mhm.
he knows light side saber combat.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I remember, I forget where it was, but I think I heard the detail somewhere like that Maul is trained at least proficiently in every form so he can combat every form.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, you have to imagine to be an apprentice that Sidious actually like grieved losing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like you had some great value. You had some great promise.
Mhm.
There's very few beings that have fought to kill Sidious that Sidious has stopped and said, I have further uses for you.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
mean, just to be like, even though he tried to kill you at one point, you're just like, I can keep you around. I
Right.
have use for you.
Hey, he was a man of contingency. If Anakin failed,
Yeah.
Darth Maul would like you
Darth
had to,
Maul would come back.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
if I was Sidious, I would be initially very pumped, and then secondly very worried to hear that my apprentice had survived.
Well, I think they included that in the Clone Wars when
Mhm.
Maul first came back and sent that message to the Jedi. I think there's a scene where he sees it,
Mm-hmm,
and he like when he first hears, oh, Maul has returned, and he's trying to find Kenobi.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I think you see, like, I think they do like a whole moment where you see the look on Sidious's face.
Yeah. So, initially there is that it like cuts away to just him and pans back, and as he moves away from the camera moves from him. He smiles,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and yeah, I think early on there is that because initially he kind of just lets him go. He even tells the other Jedi like, don't worry about him. Let him have the riffraff. We've got
Mhm.
wars to fight.
Yeah.
It's not until he takes over Mandalore where Palpatine's like, all right,
All right. Let's go get the
I was
kid.
like
field trip.
making me get my slippers on and everything. You little.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh, head can't.
It's
He absolutely wore slippers in that fight.
it's the equivalent to like you're calling the dog in and
Yeah.
they're not coming in at first, and then all of a sudden you're just like,
It's like you're making me
all
go
right.
out. Yeah.
Right.
And the
So,
fact that we see Sidious wielding two lightsabers in
Yeah.
that instance, oh,
mhm. Which that
Spectacular.
having them as a pair, Sidious and Maul, that makes
Mhm.
more sense. Like
yeah.
the reason you could say they did that, which is what Pablo has said,
Mhm.
is because he had a lightsaber and lost it in episode 3 and then had another one.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it in lore context, oh, well, how can one man train him to fight, against multiple adversaries? Oh, well, there you go. I guess, he played both because clearly that was enough to almost
Yeah.
like Maul. If Savage had actually been a better fighter,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and he admits himself, he was never cut out for that. But like if Savage had been on Maul's level,
Just dead
yeah,
man.
we
Dead
might
old
have
man on the
actually
ground.
ended the war early.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine
Which
just like them coming in the morning and being like, the Chancellor's dead. For
Yeah.
some reason,
No.
the war stopped.
No, I
Yeah.
imagine more so it's just like the separatists keep calling because now they're losing, and it's just like,
Daddy.
What do we do now?
Now we have to
oh,
rely
gosh.
on
The
Dooku.
tactical droids are just on standby waiting for orders.
Right,
And all the B1s are just, what are we doing?
right. It's like, oh, yeah,
All
guess
the
we'll get in line
B2s
for
are asleep.
unemployment.
Yeah.
So yeah, so speaking of the build up,
It's my
he
favorite
very
era.
very few scenes. In fact, like 80% of his runtime is the duel,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and
As it
then
should be.
prior to that, only 3 lines in the first film.
What are they?
Oh gosh,
Soon we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
That's the first one, yes.
the first one. So he comes in. Tatooine is vastly populated. If the readings are correct,
Oh.
it should be easy to find.
Does
Move
he say
against the
that?
Jedi first. You'll then have no trouble
yeah.
taking the queen. And then yes,
And then his last one's
at last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. I guess they're counting that as a pause. At last we will have revenge, I guess.
I guess so.
No, oh, it's later. It's like Darth Maul, be mindful. Let them make the first
Oh,
move. Yes,
yes,
my
my
master.
Yeah.
It's not any better. It's just it's so
Yeah.
minimal.
But he's a very stoic character.
Yeah.
Until
He doesn't get talkative until he goes insane.
pretty
Don't
much.
all of us.
Yeah.
I used to be shy.
Same.
Which shout out to Peter Serafinowicz,
Sorry.
who actually did those lines in the first one. Yes, the older brother from Shaun of the Dead. People forget that, but he was Maul. He was actually supposed to
in the
be
shower.
Maul. I think he actually is in that scene on Coruscant with Palpatine. Because if I remember right, he was supposed to be Maul until it was like, well, most of this movie is the fight with this character, and only Ray Park can do it.
Yeah.
So
it's like Ray Park just happened to get more screen time.
Pretty much.
That's why he's taller. In
So
that one
he
scene.
did all the stuff I know in Tanzania, I think is where they filmed, in some desert, and obviously the whole fight. So, and I actually recently learned, and I feel so bad about this because I already feel bad that nobody ever remembers his part, which I guess he's okay with. I don't know. I didn't see anything
He's got
from
other
him,
stuff going on. He's fine.
but they actually got him back for Solo.
Did
And
they?
then replaced him with Sam Witwer.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, yikes.
So
yeah, I heard
if
about
he was
that.
okay after the first one, the second one, I would definitely be pissed.
But like,
It's so that's
hearing Sam Witwer's voice was really nice.
oh for sure, and
I
that's
was
why they
about to say,
ultimately
yeah.
made the call. But yeah, I mean, this is the guy that Sam Witwer is impersonating. Like,
Yes.
I don't
and
know.
doing an excellent job.
Oh, for sure. So, but yeah, I don't think anybody. Well, actually, did you expect Maul to ever? Were you one of those pining people for, what would be cool if Darth Maul came back or anything, or was that effective? Was the character effectively done? Well, when he was done in episode 1.
Honestly, no. I had known. I forget when I heard or when I learned it, but once I learned about it, it's like, wait, so they already have material where Maul comes back, and I was like, I want to see that anywhere. Honestly, like that's a great idea, because like Maul again, like what we've been talking about this entire time is Maul gave us one of the best fight scenes in the entire saga. I mean, but like the fact that for such a simple concept of a character, he is a very compelling character. Like I think recently they've done some more comics about his story, and in one of them they revealed like Mother Talzin is his mother.
Yep. So we get definitives on that. So yeah, Talzin was after Palpatine. I don't know if it was in that way, but it was definitely in the train me way.
Yeah. Good for her.
With maybe some Snooki on the side, but she wanted to learn more about the Force beyond just Night Sister magic, and in the ploy to train her more, he, saw the Night Brother.
The reverse harem, yes.
Yeah, the pool of candidacy, and was like, I could definitely
gotta get me one of those.
yeah, I could definitely use one of those for my schemes. I think honestly, based on how we see him later think of Maul, I don't think I think he was gonna be a throwaway. He expected that. He just needed to serve a purpose. But Maul ended up proving himself, because about from the age Anakin was in episode 1, Palpatine had his claws on him and trained him ferociously, manipulated him, used the dark side to really prey on his anxieties and angers, because if you can't tell, the trend of Night Brothers is they're already aggressive, hence the naming convention. But then Maul in particular was very aggressive and very hateful of the Jedi because when he learned about his enemy, he learned that because it was presented in a much like I found you, Jedi, travel the galaxy finding young potential Jedi to join their
Yeah.
cause.
Mhm.
And he was like, oh, so I could have been a Jedi? And it's a very minor thing in his story, but there is a lot of jealousy there of the Jedi never came and got me. Instead, I got this old, decrepit man who tortures me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he was tortured. Don't forget
Oh
that.
yeah.
kids.
And so he projects that on.
Well, you
on the
kind of
Jedi.
see that when he's training Savage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is how I was trained, so it must be the right way. It's never the right way.
And that's such a sad thing. So so yeah. So although as has been mentioned, a few short years after Episode 1 came
Is that a
out,
short joke?
Maul returned in comics, but it would take 13 years for him to show up in Clone Wars. But he did. He showed up. It was George Lucas's idea.
Showed up and showed out.
Oh yeah.
Going ahead and laying that foundation.
It was George
Yeah.
Lucas's idea, but it was Dave Filoni's execution.
Oh yeah, it's just funny how people think like, oh, they keep bringing characters back.
No.
They can't do anything original. It's like George did it first.
Legitimately.
Like
He
Oh,
loved
yeah.
that stuff.
I mean, and it's a compelling story if you like watch Clone Wars, watch Rebels.
Mm.
Like I think honestly, one of the best moments I think with Maul that you have is in that last season of Clone Wars that they released when Ahsoka keeps him from killing himself.
Yeah.
And he loses his mind just screaming at her, "We're all going to die. You don't know what you're doing."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's genuinely panicked.
Yeah. Well, it plays on something I'm sure I'd noticed, but in prep for this, we rewatched.
Yeah, I was there.
I'm
in the room.
Everything to do with Maul. And I thought really like, oh, he knew about Order 66. Like those last couple of episodes in the Clone Wars really show how much of the plan he really knew.
And how long this plan has been going.
But I didn't realize how much really it had called back to one line after he first gets his new legs from Mother Talzin. He senses the force is out of balance. And Savage is like, yeah, the galaxy's at war. And he's like, oh, it started without me. And that's the only line he gets that kind of connects. Wait a minute. Oh,
where was he? What was his role supposed to be?
He wasn't just a mindless, angry tool.
Like,
not as much of a throwaway as he seemed to be.
Exactly.
Was
which
he
I
supposed
mean,
to kill senators? Like, what is it?
Well, and I remember hearing somewhere that Dooku had not fallen to the dark side until Obi-Wan turned down his offer to join him to defeat the Sith Lord that had been building himself in the shadows. Apparently he had not fallen. Apparently it was like if Obi-Wan had joined him to go against the Emperor, then he would genuinely try to kill the Emperor. But the fact that Obi-Wan turned him down left Dooku with no choice because he knew he couldn't take on Sidious alone.
I mean,
and so it left him. It left him alone to deal with everything, and he fell because of it.
I get that.
I could see that because I am one of the few people that's like, that's a genuine offer.
Yeah, 100%.
I hold hard and fast because everything, even at that point not at that point, he was a new character, but even before Dooku Jedi Lost, which is some of the best Dooku content we've gotten in canon, even before that, it was very well established he was the scapegoat for Palpatine. He wouldn't.
Yeah, he was never going to be, up on the pedestal.
Yeah, he didn't care about him, and
that was Vader's place.
Dooku's only play was that he genuinely wanted the Republic to be better. He did hate the Jedi, but only because
justifiably so.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And
I was say there was that whole storyline about how that friend of his that was in the Order was locked up in the Citadel because they could see too well into the future, and they where they kept Sypha Diaz was there as well.
Yeah.
Like he found out about that prison and like believe, like he kind of saw the corruption of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right. So whereas his apprentice Qui-Gon definitely joined for the good. He joined because of his belief in the Force and to be a part of bringing light to the world, I guess, whatever fancy way you want to put it. But he believed in the sauce. Dooku joined the Jedi because he believed in order and justice. Like he believed in the Republic.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that those two sides of the, even though there's a lot of Jedi that are absolutely that way. I mean, Obi-Wan literally tells Anakin, like my allegiance is to the Republic, right?
Not to the greater good, not to the Force, to the Republic.
Right. So there are those stoics within the order, but they can't reconcile, or they use the Force to justify their position. Whereas Dooku was definitively like, no, I don't believe in the hokey religion enough to do this anymore. Like I want the world to be better, and I think
too
the
much
Jedi
of
are
a
in the way.
realist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin Scott dialed that up to 11 in the audio drama, to where you believe, like he walks away from the order not because he'd fallen, although that would be the story that they would tell of his legacy, but because he wanted to do something better. He took on the Count persona to help his people on Sereno, not to join Sidious. That came much later.
Yeah.
And so
Dude,
yeah,
Tuataka.
and he's the perfect guy for Palpatine for that. And honestly, he wouldn't have had Dooku if not for Maul's fall in Episode 1.
Yeah.
Because Maul would not have had the same role of, although he proves how much of a leader he can be, I don't think he would have been given the power, because that's all Dooku was. He was a figurehead. You lead the Separatists.
Yeah.
That way, when you die, it's done. It's it. The war is over. And that was always the goal. But yeah, and it's funny because I hate that in the comics it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it should be when Dooku and Maul finally meet. But
Whatever.
But that's in the same comic, Son of Dathomir.
Yeah.
That further connects Talzin and Maul and Sidious and all that.
Yeah. What happens when you sniff some ashes on Morband? That also happens.
So Maul comes back. Any big thoughts on Maul? I mean, because that was an anchor for you in the Clone Wars.
Yes. Well, like we've said, I've said many times, I didn't care. I was not a Star Wars fan at the time, but the way that you kind of reeled me in is, hey, you like this character? Guess what? He comes back and he's even cooler, and he gets crazy for a little while, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, because Star Wars was definitely not. It wasn't something negative, but it was much more like that.
It was just a thing that we watched.
That's your thing.
Yeah.
But I know you always like if the Phantom Menace was on, it was always like, see, this is cool. I like this, and I was like, oh,
do you now?
Yes. Then I have a story for you.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. That is my favorite Maul, is Clone Wars Maul.
I mean,
I was going to ask Spider Maul, because that is a fun Maul.
Okay,
I like
okay,
that
okay,
Maul.
Okay.
That'd be a fun Maul to take to a party.
There is
sad boy.
So much incredible acting being done by Sam Witwer in Spider Maul. Like you get the devastation of being abandoned on a trash heap. You get his mind absolutely cracked and broken in twain.
Oh yeah.
Like he was not looked for because he was dead. But even if Sidious felt like a hint of his power or his energy, I don't think he would have looked for him anyway, because he wasn't the plan anymore. Like he was just garbage. So you get to a point where you have to absolutely destroy a character in order to make them even more interesting, which is some of my favorite character work in general. But yes, I absolutely adore where we find him on, what's the planet?
Lotho Minor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, and I mean the spells that found Maul that the Savage and Mother Talzin used, they're basically the same Sith magic that Sidious is already very versed in.
Yeah.
He could have found Maul if he really wanted to.
He probably knew
And I
that Maul
feel
was alive.
Maul knows that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and that only furthers.
What's up, Justice?
Yes, who is
God
Darth
damn it.
Maul?
I love you so much,
Yeah,
buddy.
like I don't know. To be fair, I feel like he awkwardly asked Obi-Wan later, of just like, "Oh yes, the Sith. How exactly did you dispatch him, and where is the
I know.
body?
Did you make sure? Did you aim for the
Did you
neck?
go? Yes. Did you go for the head?
Did you go for
Oh
that?
no. Oh, okay.
Ooh, yikers.
Yeah. I don't think it really came up.
No, I don't think it was
no.
like with Anakin, you're checking on your investment, like poking him with a stick on the edge of a lava pit.
Yeah.
Because even if when like he showed up on Naboo, if he felt an inkling, I think it would have been best to let him die. He knows too much.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I say that, and when I think the story says that, and I'm trying to remember exactly when it was. It could even be Legends. I think it was a comic where, he's musing about the tragedy of losing Maul. But like what I think they're going for and what I hold to is he grieves him for how useful he was to his plan, not because of
Toxic.
attachment. Yeah,
Sidious
absolutely.
is a toxic ex.
Exactly. That is 100. He's a toxic stepdad.
Yeah, there you
100%.
go.
Yeah, he's the guy from The Fly too. It's just like, I want you to think of me
As
your
Papa.
father. It's like,
if Maul got caught in a dryer, Sidious would just leave him there.
that
and walk
the
away.
password to Maul's laptop is definitely DAD.
Good joke.
God, I love that movie.
It's a
Everyone
good
go
movie.
watch Fly 2. I think it's on HBO.
It is.
It's so great. Double feature it with the Jeff Goldblum one, which it is a sequel to. But
Yeah. This
watch
is a
it.
slight aside, but I would like to point out how John showed me The Fly 2, where we were just sitting on the couch and he looked at me and says, "I'm gonna show you something."
Oh god.
So this was just after we watched Prey,
Exactly,
actually.
and I was primed and ready for something else.
Because and we were just talking. Oh, great acting, such good stuff. So
You know what else has good acting?
Well, it was because it was the dog. The dog is why I was like, oh, this is
Wait
the
a minute.
perfect time to break your heart. So if you love dogs, please watch The Fly 2 on HBO.
If you love your family, please watch The Fly 2 on HBO.
So you say like it's your favorite Maul. I can't disagree because he wasn't really much of a character.
Yeah.
He was an idea in the Phantom Menace, but he wasn't a character until Clone Wars.
He is the tragedy of Darth Maul encapsulated
Yeah.
in Spider Maul, because he never had a choice
No.
in anything that he ever did. Like he
The-
just did what he was told, and
Yeah.
now when he's left without direction, this is what happens.
The
He
first
shatters.
time he has
Exactly.
a choice, he chooses revenge.
Good for him, honestly.
Because even in his brokenness, the one thing he can hold to
Is his hate.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
Spite. It
Oh
keeps you
my
going,
gosh.
baby.
he's such a it always makes me think of Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain, like living in
Mhm.
spite, literally living, like refusing to die because of your connection to hatred and the Force. And it's just like, that's a thing. That's the only immortality Sith can hope for.
Yeah.
Is living in spite.
Man too angry to die.
Yeah, that's what we find Palpatine,
Yeah.
steeping in on Exegol.
It's
Mhm.
I'm going to attribute the best line in Kenobi to, the tragedy of Darth Maul, is "Revenge does wonders for the will to live," and it is accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
And again, you had mentioned Boop, just the voice acting in this part in behind Maul alone. I mean, in the same sentence, that man cried,
Laugh.
got pissed off, laughed, like
That's me and my car on my lunch break.
Well, and we have Sam Witwer to thank, because it was his idea to recite some of the Sith code in his ramblings and everything.
Yes.
Have you seen footage
God.
of Sam Witwer doing Maul?
Yes. If you haven't,
man,
Deserves a kiss and a back rub.
all of the actors for the Clone Wars have their own way, and one of the things they did very well was, in general, they acted together. I don't think anyone acted in the same room with Sam Witwer, and I'm glad, because I don't think you could,
No.
because you would
He would
just
take
be so
swings.
entranced by what he's doing, because he is acting, he's doing
Yeah.
it, and that there's a reason they film them
Yeah. I mean,
when
this
they record their lines.
this is Rebels, much later down the line.
Oh,
but
Rebels. Still
Oh,
did
I know.
amazing.
the footage of him doing the Kenobi scream
Mm-hmm.
is visceral.
Well, now, and then he set a precedent, because now he gets asked all the time.
Yeah,
I
no,
know,
he's
poor baby.
Well, I know. I want to say Sam and the guy from Phantom Menace. I forget. I'm horrible with names.
Ray Park?
Yeah, Ray. Sam and Ray both were at Star Wars Celebration, and they were the two on the they were the only two on the panel,
Yeah.
and that was them meeting for the first time. I remember, I believe.
Really? Wow.
And one of the first things everyone starts chanting is "Kenobi," just trying to, and he does it for him and everything. And Ray just looks over, and is like, "Good job."
There is a beautiful relationship, because it's not quite as toxic, I think, as the relationship to the character was for David Prowse and
Yeah.
James Earl Jones. I was trying to find a good word for it, because
Mhm.
Dave
Discontented?
literally would sign things as the real Darth Vader.
Oh.
And
Oh,
he would that was a
like
part of
that.
his signature. And I don't think it was all animosity. I think some of it was a little sad.
yeah.
He had a really great career in Britain before Darth
Yeah.
Vader. He got it because he was physical, but he had chops. He had acting chops. He could
Dude,
have been Darth
It was
Vader,
a
but
double for Errol Flynn.
regardless, obviously we can only hear one voice when we hear Darth Vader. It was done. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, that's forever a very tarnished relationship. Dave is
Yeah.
sadly passed, but nonetheless, it's still that shared thing.
Mhm.
Whereas, because of the very unique role they both take, Ray Park, I think would say the same about himself. He's not an actor. You don't get him for his face and his voice and his
Unless you're casting Toad.
character. True.
He is a
He's
very
there.
good Toad.
He's there because he does flips.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's not to reduce him, because he does that very, very well.
He does
Yes.
spectacular flips.
Sam Witwer,
He can do
he's
flips.
beefcake, but he's not Maul.
No.
But he's an actor.
He's a
Yeah.
very broody
He's
vampire.
Incredible.
I love it though.
And so, they both take a part of the role that the other can't really do. And I think it's a very, everything
Yeah.
I've seen publicly, at least, has been a good relationship between them. When we met Ray at Celebration, he had nothing but amazing things to say about Sam Witwer, because, my comment to him was like, I am so glad to have you back in Star Wars. I love this character and what you've done.
Mhm.
I never thought that would happen, honestly.
Yeah.
And he was like, I didn't either, but when they called me, I was glad to kind of follow up what this other cool guy was doing.
Also a
Yeah.
great sport when signing things. He'll just write down anything you give him.
Right.
Oh God, what did you do?
Well, it's not really reachable.
No, but
Gotcha.
so on one side it says
A
from-
Funko Pop of Maul.
yeah. So it's on one side it is from Half Husband, and on the other side it's from Trash Husband.
Because that is what Boop always called Maul during the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because
That's Trash Husband.
you find him in the trash.
Trash
Middle
husband.
And so we were like, oh my gosh, we need to get him to sign it. But we knew we were meeting both of them. So it's like, well, if we get him to do something funny, we need to get Ray to do something funny too.
Yeah. And then we got Alan Tudyk to sign a chicken.
We did. That man is a gem.
He is.
We-
He just gave it such a good squeeze.
That started a trend.
Oh
that-
God, one of those.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to continue from now on. We've decided if we're going to shell out the money to get someone to sign something
Oh, it's
for
gonna
us,
be something ridiculous.
it's going to be the stupidest thing possible. It's not going to be I'm not going to meet Ewan McGregor and get him to sign
No.
an Obi-Wan figure.
I'm gonna get him to sign heroin.
Oh.
You got a food stamp card?
A baby. That I
Oh,
can just...
so
One of those babies with sticky hands who can snap to the ceiling.
so we're
I
we're on a
would
mission now.
absolutely, as a father, I would absolutely have my child signed by Ewan McGregor. I'm just
John
saying.
signed by Ewan McGregor.
Well, that's the beauty of acting and this world of talented people is they do other things,
Oh, yeah.
and generally we like them in other things too. So, and similarly on the podcast, if we ever get a Star Wars personality, they're not talking about Star
No,
Wars. Let me
Pablo
just
Hidalgo, you were going to talk about Transformers, so I can ask
exactly
you about Cliff Jumper.
exactly.
I would ask
but
them
just
for like recipes they make around the house.
I think it's
Right?
the
Just- I
funniest
wanna-
It's like
troll
fun.
to do. Is it's just like and a famed Star
Famed?
Wars director,
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson, here to
How,
talk about.
how do you cook pasta?
Do you like
So-
al dente or
so
do you like them squishy?
breakfast pasta, Ryan. Where do you stand?
I'm telling you.
Do you eat leftovers over the sink with your hands like a menace? Because I do.
Speaking of menaces,
Thank you for
to
changing
kind
the
of
subject.
round out Maul's Clone Wars tenure, we talked about the coming back and whatnot, but his story quickly kind of, I think, shifts. It's not just him coming back and going on this hate-fueled journey. He gets a job, sort of.
He does get a job. Good for him.
Coop, we'll
Shit,
start
he
with
does.
you. What did you think when he took over Mandalore? He united the crime families. Like, this is much beyond a evil scheme at this
Mhm.
point for the character, and a character that, again, was arguably overrated for only having one cool fight. Like,
The only thing I love more than an unhinged crazy person in a Denny's parking lot is a person who knows what the heck they're talking about. And that goes for people in my life and villains, mostly. I love a mustache twirling, always 10 steps ahead villain. And that is what Maul becomes in the Mandalore
Yeah.
arc. He is so above and beyond everyone else. And I love that.
and he reminds them.
He reminds them, and he has Maul cops, like at a certain
Mall
point.
cops.
Yes.
Exactly. Maul DeLoreans is great, but they're Maul cops.
Mall cops.
Like,
Is that
dispensing
ever
justice, baby.
on the table for both of you? But is that ever something you thought you'd get? Is Maul and Mandalorians merging in that way?
I was never well versed in this in the first place, so no.
I mean, I know I don't want to say it was done already in like the comics or the books. I don't. Ow, fucking cat. I don't want to say it was ever done or. I don't want to say it was ever done or anything. But I mean, I knew that Mandalore had a pretty big arc in Clone Wars.
Mhm.
So I mean, I was hoping that we would at least go back to Mandalore to some fashion, but the fact that, Maul shows up to take over the place. Also the fact that, Kenobi's love interest is there.
Yeah.
You can kind of be like, oh yeah, no, something's going to go down.
Yeah.
Either Dave and his writing crew were absolute geniuses and set all that up, or they saw an opportunity, I think, to close many threads in one.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what are we going to do with Maul? How do we get rid of the Mandalorians before the Clone Wars ends? How do we get rid of Kenobi's love interest? How do we deal with all of these things? Maul's the answer to all of them.
Yeah.
Um,
And there are a few moments in the Clone Wars that like give me chills, make a cold stabbing feeling in my heart. Satine's death is definitely a huge one.
Oh
because
yeah.
that was out of left field for me
Oh
personally.
yeah.
I thought he was just gonna like toss her somewhere or something,
mhm.
but no, just force pull directly into a lightsaber.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
way to go.
That's classic Maul.
Yeah. Oh, dramatic as heck too, and,
Yeah.
and, like
Shenanigans.
couldn't just stab her, had to do it fancy. I was just like, I just imagine.
Well,
Had
I
to-
mean,
Savage.
he wants Kenobi to see it. He wants Kenobi to see the look on her face.
Mhm.
He
Oh, yeah.
wants Kenobi to lose. He wants to watch Kenobi lose everything he's ever cared about. And
Mhm.
as a Jedi, that's hard to come by.
Mhm.
Is anything a Jedi cannot just let go of. And I mean, what's better than an ex-girlfriend he can't get over?
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, he's thinking he's punishing Kenobi, and absolutely, we know the effect it has on the character, but nonetheless, he's the resolute Jedi as always, and so no matter how painful it was, he still rose above it, and so it's just that sort of transmission of trauma that
Who's Paul?
Maul.
Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Paul Maul.
Yes.
That he's going through trying to, like, I don't want to just kill you. I want you to suffer as I have suffered,
Exactly.
and that's a long list of suffering
In almost the
for his
exact
character.
same way that Qui-Gon was killed.
Oh, for sure.
In dying in Kenobi's arms, and then he sits back and smiles, like just so satisfied with himself. Little goober.
Well, and and it's not the all right, now put him in prison where he'll escape. Like, it's the no, I want him to steep kind of thing. He
Mhm.
thinks that, like, surely he'll be too broken to do anything,
And he's right for a little
or
while.
or maybe he'll choose revenge, in which case I still win because he broke. Um,
Mhm.
I honestly don't think Maul self-preservation was his, like, top priority. I think breaking Kenobi was the biggest thing.
No,
Yeah.
it was the equivalent of feeding his parent to him in a chili. That was what that scene was.
Maul is the
Yes.
Eric Cartman
Salty
of
cheers.
Star Wars.
Yes.
Am
Oh
I
my gosh,
wrong?
that is so
No,
horrible.
you're right.
Like, that is the one reference point I have with South Park, and it's a
Right.
good one.
I mean, it's a
Kenobi,
definitive
I've
one.
come to kill you, but unfortunately, all I can afford is a wiffle ball bat. So this is gonna take a while.
But yeah, I imagine Savage afterwards being like, "It was really cool how you did
That was messed up, dude.
the force thing with the into the lightsabers. Cool."
Can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah,
Was
I think
it the Mandalore arc that Maul and Savage fought for like the supremacy? No,
it
no,
was
that
a little
was
earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was way earlier. Get away.
Which, yeah, you see that where how quickly he doesn't know family. He doesn't know how to do family. He knows how to do master and apprentice, and in this case, he's going to be master.
Just gave me a lot of memories of my older brothers, honestly. I've been hit with that lightsaber right there
Right.
so many times.
Well, yeah, it's just, from the get-go, they show again how he's transmitting the trauma,
Mhm.
not only towards his enemy of Kenobi, who honestly still tried to help him, like, for all that's happened, when he sees Satine there, he's like, we don't have to do this. I know it wasn't your fault. I know it wasn't your choice. When he sees him on Tatooine, even still, it's just like he's trying to reach this damaged man.
Mhm.
And it's just a guy who can't let go of his trauma, so he hurts everyone close to him.
Exactly.
And so that's the tragedy of Savage. Like,
Yeah.
He
such
didn't
an
want this either.
interesting character. It wasn't it was the exact same thing. If it wasn't your choice, I think of, like, even the book of Boba Fett, where Boba's dealing with the trauma of, do I just end up dead one day for my boss like my dad did, or do I try and break off and do something else? Like, Maul never made the choice to let that go. He had a criminal enterprise. He was doing well for himself. He could have even taken out his own master. He could have even, like, passed information to the Republic to end the war.
He
Like,
could have.
any number
But
of
he didn't.
choices he could have made, and yet he chose anger, revenge, and violence.
So what I'm hearing is the way to deal with family trauma is to become a crime lord.
Well, to let go of it and apply yourself to other things, if that be crime.
Like
then-
being-
When you're the youngest sibling, yes.
I am the youngest sibling.
So am I.
Why don't we just
So
start a
am
crime
I.
family, fam? You're an
Tell
only
them.
child.
There you go. Yep. So, I mean, I am the youngest sibling.
You're also the oldest, though.
I am my own sibling.
I am
I
master
am.
and apprentice.
All right, Marty McFly.
Always one. There are
Could you
two
be your own
Jedi
grandpa?
whatever. So yeah, like I do think because we do of everything get the most time in the Clone Wars. I do think it's some of the best if you want to understand Maul. I mentioned jokingly earlier, I do think he's a little too much of a chatty Cathy at
Disagree.
times, but when you get Sam Witwer, you get your money's worth. But Maul has middle child vibes.
He does.
He's the
though.
only one raised by Palpatine, so there is that. I do think he's honestly the first child, and
Do you think he and Ray's dad would have gotten along? I don't think so.
probably not.
He would
Probably
have hung
not,
out with Ochi of
because
Bestoon,
I
though.
believe Ray's dad was kind of a softie, wasn't he?
Right?
Yeah,
No,
good
he wouldn't
point.
have. Or maybe he
Maul
would have been
Maul and
one
him
to
would have
reach out.
gotten along in the sense that like their parents would force them to hang out with each other, and
Mhm.
one would just play too roughly with the other.
Right,
Yes.
but they definitely both hate their dad.
Very
Yes.
true.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's the unifying factor. of
It's
being
like
different.
it'd be like an episode of Step Bros.
yeah, there
Exactly.
you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not to a detriment, but it is one of those things where to go from no lines, or well, 3 lines, to
A lot of
a lot of
lines.
rambling and dialogue and monologuing even. Like it's just one of those things where sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to see him fully return to his much more soft spoken, because that was always an interesting dynamic. Is the voice and the lines in episode 1 were so creamy and mellow. You could tell he was gonna let loose, but like he seemed just as conniving and
Mhm.
menacing as Sidious.
Mhm.
And then he lets loose on the lightsaber. That's where the aggression shows. To see that kind of return when he's like his psyche is put back together would have been, I think, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting, but I feel like you wouldn't have gotten some of the great moments, like him screaming Kenobi in a desert,
Very true.
because you like the character that Maul is at this point is, I forget how many years he sat in the junkyard just surviving off of
10.
hate. He was down there for 10 years, no one to talk to or speak of. He was considered a monster by the locals on the planet.
Mhm.
Like, it was just, oh, you don't
was
go
eating
near that
people.
trash pile. That's the trash pile that eats people.
Right.
So I mean, you have a character who's been in isolation for 10 years, and like he's broken in all kinds of ways.
Mm.
And I feel like, he did what he had to do to survive, but he's fractured, and he's still fractured by when he's on his conquest to find Kenobi. I feel like his character didn't find peace until he was killed by Kenobi.
Exactly.
It was
And-
always one of 2 options. I
Get
kill
stabbed.
Kenobi or he kills me.
Yeah. But like at the end there, when like after he knows he's been beaten, after he knows he's dying, and like kind of he gets some clarity, and instead of I need to kill Kenobi needs to die, it
Mhm.
turns into, will he avenge us? Like, will we have justice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Like-
he even in the end he chose revenge.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it all, I get where it comes from, and again I also get it just from the standpoint of, if you're going to get an actor, let them do their job.
Oh yeah.
And he does get more focused, really by the time he gets to Mandalore. By like he's much more, I'm on the throne, I'm just
Mhm.
dishing orders. It's not as monologue-y.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things I thought about on this recent watch, of just it's different, because I've never gone from Phantom Menace to Clone Wars. I've never gone that quickly to that. It's always been its own kind of rewatch.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I wonder what a quiet Maul would have been like.
Not as fun.
Probably.
Something that I've always really appreciated about Maul, and how Sam Witwer delivers his lines, is that he's got customer service voice. There is a deep, simmering rage under every word that he speaks,
Absolutely.
and I adore that. Like you hear in his voice the strain that it's keeping to like put a cap on it.
Oh my god,
And-
I do that.
It's him all the time.
Like I was thinking about that. It's like if a customer says something rude to me and I have to continue to talk to them, I'm like, "Thank you, sir. Have a good day."
Yeah, you're
Yes.
forcing yourself to say the things you have to say,
Yeah.
not necessarily the things you want to say.
I should
There's
get
a lot of that like stuff, like especially like yeah, when he's talking to people or who he's talking to, like when he talks to Previzsla and it's like you lack clarity. Like, oh
You
my
lack
gosh,
clarity.
shut up and go in your tent. I'm handling this now.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's definitely a lot. It's not just lines flowing. It's just like, oh, oh my gosh. How do I say this in a way you'll understand?
Yeah.
You know?
How do I say this as monosyllabic as possible in order for your tiny brain to understand it? I love your.
Oh yeah, with that pre-Vizsla versus Maul bit. Oh,
It is
yeah.
spectacular.
He would have.
Great point from Brian live in the chat here of when Palps goes back to Mandalore, Maul still would have given up everything if Palps might have taken him back.
Yeah.
I mean,
because he was lost. Like
I think that reaction of child getting caught by their parents that he had when he showed up was absolutely genuine.
Mhm.
It's like a hand in the cookie jar. Just
Yep, I did this all in the hopes of returning to your side.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want a cookie?
The tragedy that would have, I keep saying tragedy, I'm sorry. The
Darth Maul's story is a tragedy,
the
baby.
sadness that would have been if Palpatine had actually been like, okay, then get rid of your apprentice. And
he would have done it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's already put Savage in his place once.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It would all be from Savage's perspective
Yeah.
of just like, oh my gosh, like because all throughout that, like he's hunting for his brother, not just for revenge against Asajj or the or Dooku. Like he comes to Mother Talzin of just like everything's falling apart, nothing, like I've been betrayed. What am I supposed to do? Like I was plucked from my life by these people, and now they want to kill me. And she sends him in the direction of, hey, you have a brother, go find him. Which bad choice on that regard, but I mean, like bad for him because it's just
terrible choice in that regard.
He gets tied to his hip of this journey of revenge and everything, and so it's like he wanted a brother out of this, and he got an abusive master.
And you have, like, I think we've hit on it before, the two-sided coin of someone who grew up with companionship. He had
had brothers.
Like he had people to protect, and he was protected in return. And then he gets a big brother that he's always wanted, and
It's not
he
the
get
same.
whacked a few times. I turned out fine, mostly. Everything below the neck works okay. Like it just, I love that dynamic.
I definitely see.
But I also hate
it. Like Force Unleashed levels of just like Palpatine shows up and Vader kills his apprentice. Just like you were followed, you were spoiled. Like the game's over, kid.
Yeah.
Self-preservation mode activated.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I've never played that game, so.
But and
it's a good one. I'd recommend it.
Have Palpatine just like, all right, he's dead, and then zap, like just have him kill his own apprentice, and then still don't give him the reward of having his place back. Like,
Maul doesn't respond to criticism well, so there's only so much he can do.
Not anymore.
But nonetheless, we do get another really great, which the Clone Wars has a good number because the animation allows for a lot of creativity to flow in lightsaber battles. But that three-way with Palpatine, Savage, and Maul on Mandalore, that lightsaber fight is dope. And that was done in the time when it was animated. Like we got mocap for season 7 of Clone Wars. Ray Park
boy, did we.
got to suit up as Maul again.
Got put in the boo box.
Create a new fight. That's great. But animators have been making Maul look good the entire time. And so to get to some of it in the time we have, because Maul is just such an interesting depth of a character. which again, I don't know that we would have. I mean, we would have theorized, we would have had ideas back in the day of who this character might be, what they might do, where they're from. But we've gotten so
Who's your
much,
daddy and what does he do?
so many of those answers,
Thank you,
and it's
Brad.
such good storytelling. And so he comes back yet again. I will say I was much more surprised by his return in Star Wars Rebels, because of how out of left field it was. Versus, like, as soon as the Knight brothers came up, I was like, okay, this is going towards Maul. It's got to be right. Um, but in Star Wars Rebels, out of nowhere, he shows up on Malachor to quote unquote help our heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
he
helps.
helps.
He did help. He did, and he also helped himself.
Yes.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So I don't know how
He
y'all
found another
felt.
apprentice.
Exactly, right. If it was the same level, or if maybe Clone Wars was a bigger moment for you, but with Maul coming back now, uh, retired-ish from the crime business,
Forced out
right?
by Kira.
I think we're gonna get that story very soon. But yeah, Maul and Rebels. Any big thoughts there?
I like kind of I like the weathered aspect they took with him,
Mm-hmm.
where you see him and he comes out with a walking stick, like he Yoda's you.
I was gonna say, yeah, he pulls a Yoda.
Yeah, and I'm like you see him, he comes out and he's wise. He's not outwardly malicious.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of quiet. He's kind of found that an in between his old self and like the insane self that he had in Clone Wars.
Mm.
And I mean, at the end of like the last appearance that we saw in Clone Wars before Rebels came out, because season 7 didn't come out until after Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the last time you see him in 6 was, what was it?
Well, it wasn't even 6. It was season 5.
Yeah.
After the Maul fight on Mandalore, like,
Yeah.
it just cuts away with Palpatine
I have need
supposedly
of you. Yeah.
carting him somewhere off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of the last time you see him. So you're thinking to yourself, oh, what's going on? I mean, if you don't watch Solo, you don't know.
Yeah.
But to see him come back in that way, where he's a bit more tempered and maybe a bit more of his old conniving self,
Mm-hmm.
and having a character alongside him like Ezra, who at this point in time is still kind of naive and doesn't really like, he's pretty quick to trust as long as you don't try to kill him. Honestly.
Fair. Honestly.
So I mean, and then you have Maul who parts knowledge onto Ezra and everything. And then like you don't get that ominous moment of Maul until Ahsoka and Kanan are fighting the Inquisitors,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just hear Ezra. They hear Ezra behind them. Guys, I found help.
Right.
And
Mhm.
Ahsoka just turns and goes, "Oh,
Right. I thought I dealt with this guy
One
already.
more thing.
Yeah.
I would have. The only reason I would have liked for season 7 to come out before that is just a look in the eye between Ahsoka and Maul, just being like, "You were right.
Mm.
Everything went. It hit the fan. Like
Yeah.
you were absolutely correct, and I should have listened to you."
Yeah, because we knew they had out towards the end of the war because of E.K. Johnson's book Ahsoka,
Mhm.
but that wasn't the point of the book. It wasn't very teased out.
No.
Clone Wars decided to take that moment and make it what it was of, he knows about the Chosen One. He's trying to actively preserve himself in this grand scheme of Order 66. Like, it makes it much bigger. So unfortunately there's not that like knowing look of like Darth Vader's on his way.
Mhm.
But he does mention that in such a way that's like, oh wait, hey, Darth Vader?
Mm.
So there's still stories to be told in that gap, clearly. But
Mhm.
I like that he's definitely, this is his old master, which is what that he's called when he first shows up. But this is his era of I'm at the point of passing on my wisdom to someone who can help me achieve, I guess, my final goal, or maybe just I don't know. I don't know what we don't
Goal
know.
would be nice.
Right. We don't know the details of him
One off the
ending up
to-do
on
list.
Malachor. And so I don't know where his headspace was of I got to get out of here. I don't, who knows.
I got this box and I don't know what to do with it.
But I liked it more because, and I think I talked about this when we talked about Rebels a couple of months ago. Like I liked it more for Ezra and such. Like it was much more interesting to have Ezra getting another perspective of the Force through Maul than it was to have Maul back at all.
And how easy it is to be manipulated. And how, enticing the dark side is and how useful it sounds. Like you can use it to get what you want and help people,
Well, and what's interesting, I do believe like all of the exercises or all the Indiana Jones-esque things they do
the shenanigans
throughout the temple, like it's meant for two, but he coaxes Ezra really to do most of it himself. He only helps when he has to rescue Ezra, get him across the gap. I think, and so he's still got that that kind of conniving, selfish Sithness about him.
Let's see if this kid can do this.
And I think it's through that because you start to see like the hood comes down, he starts to straighten up. He doesn't walk with a cane anymore. Like the persona fades away and the true identity comes out.
He did a Gene Wilder.
And so he's the same old Maul.
Well, then, I mean, I feel like I feel like it was more along the lines of like letting Ezra do most of the work, was seeing, okay, what's this kid's potential? Is he worth my time? Do I cut him down now?
Right. Because he already had the saber. That's a great point. That's a really good point.
He already had the holocron.
I think he seeing the promise of his power makes it go beyond you're useful right now to you're useful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same way he was chosen.
Showed a little potential and got it exploited. And so, like his role is much lesser, I think, in Rebels. And it really comes to the point of giving him an ending and giving Ezra a new challenge to overcome.
A springboard.
So he's kind of used for the expense of the characters in Rebels, whereas in Clone Wars, he's got a story. And I don't mean that in a versus or better or lesser. I think it's just the ways in which he was used. But as far as Rebels giving us the end of this character and Maul.
In a beautiful moment.
Yeah. You liked it?
I did. I hated it, but I loved it. Like, Maul is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. If I have not made that clear. Welcome, baby.
Welcome.
Come on in here.
Oh, that sounds creepy. Don't do that again.
Baby, it's cold outside.
It's okay.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, like Maul is one of, if not my favorite character in all of Star Wars. So finding out halfway through a season of a show, like, hey, guess what? Your favorite character's gonna die in this season. Just FYI.
Well, I mean, Maul's story cannot end any other way.
Of course not. Like, it is the most fitting end to the tragedy of Darth Maul.
Yeah.
He has spent his entire life living in anger and spite, and you need to learn a lesson through that of like, this is the end. This is what you're heading towards if you live your life that way. Is you're going to not be satisfied. You're going to die in the arms of the object of your spite.
And it's sad that that's the moment where he finds peace.
Exactly. That is.
And again, it's like I said, it's even in that peace that he finds in death, because his hatred and his suffering is finally over. The main thing he wants to know before he goes is, will he be avenged? Will he be like, will his death find justice?
Yeah. because he was wronged just as much as Obi-Wan and Anakin
yeah.
and all of the Jedi. You know,
Someone like you could
Exactly.
almost if you could almost look at it as no one was wronged more by Sidious than Maul.
Exactly. He took away every ounce of potential that he had to be better. To be he could have been taken by the Jedi. Like if
Yeah.
he wasn't whisked away by Sidious. Like it is so sad when you think about it. Like he was taken from his mother and then he had the only, you know, guidance that he had taken away from him. He was left to rot on a trash heap. That'll break anybody.
Yeah.
Maul just had power behind it. Like, it makes you sad.
Yeah.
You know, I see a lot of criticisms of villains lately in major films, obviously big ones being Star Wars, Marvel, and everything, and this agenda of making, you know, sympathetic, you know, and weak
Hey,
villains.
Brennan. Sorry.
As if, like, you know, oh no, if they have a tragic backstory, they're weak villains. They're just, you know,
They're
not-
interesting villains.
You fist fight Thanos. I dare you.
I think if you have the perspective, and here's me looking at film and stories way more deeply, because that's what we do. That's why we have a podcast. But I think if you find villains with origin stories unrealistic or boring, you
Go
have a
watch a James
very
Bond movie.
you have a very bad outlook on what makes people people. Like, you know, fake characters are real people. Doesn't matter. Buttholes are buttholes for reasons. Like,
Yeah.
stuff happens to people. And it's hard to remember in the moment. Trust me, I deal with a lot of sucky people sometimes. And it's hard not to treat them like sucky people. But it's important to remember they are people, and they're probably that way for who knows what reasons.
Yeah. Almost every villain is a victim first.
And you don't have to become best friends with them, but
No.
you do have to make the choice not to make it worse. You know, not to contribute to their villain origin story. And I think that's the thing, you know, with Maul is, yeah, you should feel bad. You should feel pity. It should be something emotional. Like, it can be just the flippy, angry, cool guy, but he's deeper than that. Boba Fett can just be the guy with a jetpack, but it's deeper than that. All of it's so much deeper, and I think that's good and interesting. And I don't think it takes away from any of that. Like, I've not watched the Duel of Fates any differently in all the years that we've gotten these stories of Maul. If anything, it makes it even better. He's even more interesting. So I love a good villain with a ridiculous backstory and that explores, like, hey, it didn't have to be this way.
Yep. That is exactly why I love Maul. He is a morality story.
And if you don't like any of that, there's Palpatine, who's apparently evil. And I
He
want,
was an evil baby.
after my whole speech, I want it clear. I want it to stay that way with Palpatine. I want him to be bad for no good reason.
He was bad because he was dropped as a child.
I want him to be in I want a Omen situation. I just want a, like, son of Satan. Like, you are just an evil entity.
His birthday was Damien.
Exactly.
Right. Sheev, Damien, Palpatine.
The third.
I mean,
Esquire.
how bad did you have to hate your kid to name him Sheev, first of all? I still hold out. Matt Smith, come on, dude.
Come on.
Let's make that origin story happen.
Where was he? I still don't know.
He has since teased that his actual role in The Rise of Skywalker was going to be
The baby.
monumental.
The big baby.
And it didn't happen, so it's crazy.
Not enough eyebrows.
Brennan also got to meet Sam Witwer at Star Wars Celebration.
Nice.
If you can ever swing it, great guy. He was a great sport, like
Smells
I said,
great.
in with signing our stuff. But also it was nice to have a brief moment because he's a very intellectual guy too. He's very smart, very talented.
Written so many books.
Oh, and speaking of books and talent,
Oh yeah.
Lucasfilm Publishing or Del Rey Books, however you want to label them, but the Star Wars Book Company has been reissuing Legends novels because Legends isn't dead.
No, it never died. No one ever took those away from
I'm
me.
still holding out for Revan.
Oh man,
Probably.
it's got to be on the list because, considering the various novels they've gotten to so far, they've done some of my favorites. They've begun the Darth Bane books. They've gotten the recent one, Shatterpoint, with Mace Windu
Death Troopers.
and Death Troopers,
Beautiful cover.
and Darth Maul Shadow Hunter, which you can either get the book of, or you can listen to the lovely voice of Sam Witwer read in the
Really?
audiobook. He did the entire
Did he?
audiobook.
Well, dang.
So if you want to hear more of him as Maul, because it has been a while, check that out if you can. I'd say Audible's a sponsor, but they're not. They
They're
did just a
not.
long time ago.
That was like one of our first sponsors, and that didn't work.
They listened to our episodes and we're like, no, we can't. We
No,
can't support
We've
these
gotten
people.
better. Baby, come back.
Which, speaking of,
I know that's a good choice, Brennan.
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
Our patron Brennan here has a podcast, by the way,
Yes,
which
he does.
is on the screen now. But for those
An
listening,
excellent podcast.
page turners, they were not. Great variety of different little short episodes that you can check out there. So support our awesome patron. But yes,
He's just a neat dude.
Love
Brennan.
I recently found out about that with the audiobook, and man,
Did they make him canon?
what's that?
Sorry, I looked down. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, he's canon. The Knights of the Old Republic novels. I'm sorry, I thought that's what you were talking about, Brad, when you were when you mentioned Revan.
No,
I'm
I
hoping-
haven't heard anything about Revan actually being canon.
So yeah, I think there was something recently more definite, but even back in the Rise of Skywalker, each of the legions of Sith troopers are named after Sith. And so it's the Bane Legion, it's the Revan Legion, and a couple of others. And so
Okay, he's
Revan's
canon
name,
at least. All right.
but what? Oh, it's Shadows of the Sith. That's right. There's a little bit in Shadows of the Sith where I think it's not just someone talking about Revan. I think it's a very definitive, like, yes, this is a person, this is a character. And so no major spoilers there other than just a tease for you to read Shadows of the Sith.
I have to.
I hear it's a great book.
Eli certainly thinks so.
We haven't gotten to it, but you know what? I'm at the point where it's just like, I'm going to read it or listen to it eventually, but I can't hold off on consuming content because Eli is going to be on the Followers of the Force podcast talking about that. And so
yes, he is. That sweet baby boy.
so many podcasts you should follow. None less than our lovely friends here, Force Losers. Brad, do y'all have any content recently out or coming soon you want to talk about?
You and Kev mud wrestling?
I feel like I would win that.
Oh, for sure.
He could lift me, but I could throw him.
Exactly. You were a mountain.
You know where his tickle spots are.
That too. That too. I know it entices him.
Go for the middies.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about shirtless Maul much. Darn it.
Hot. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, there you go.
He is
Anyway.
hot and brainy. Let the man talk.
No, so I think, oh God, what is the last episode we did? I want to say we did we did a review of Halo, the TV series.
Nice.
Finally, months after that came out.
I haven't even finished it,
We
so
watched
you're
the first
ahead of
episode.
us. We watched. Was it just the first episode?
Yep.
What?
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't because of anything against the show. It was
that's
just
fine,
like
yeah.
the way life was set up.
And then I started
Yeah.
watching Stranger Things, and
Yeah. It was just one of those things. I need to sit down and do it.
When you watch all the episodes, give the Force Losers a listen.
I will. I absolutely will.
Because
Now I have more motivation, so I can listen to my boys.
Yeah, I'm a Halo nerd. I'm already signed up for the Halo episode.
Oh, dang it. I was going to say that.
Yes.
Yes, that's a tease for down the road.
Yes. And then I think coming up, we're going to finally review Multiverse of Madness.
Nice. Great
Oh,
movie.
Good
'cause-
movie.
Oh God,
It's,
they are making all the right choices.
Yes, exactly.
I look forward to getting that DVD, like physical copy, so I can lick it and just stick it to my forehead. Because that's what I do with things that I love.
Fair.
The cat won't stick.
Go figure.
There's some Velcro you could probably try out.
They would be so happy about
Wanna
that,
be a
wouldn't they? Well, good. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that gives me more motivation to finish Halo. I've been meaning to, and just not been able to make it.
It happens.
I just need to kick it in high gear because, like, I have plenty of time to rewatch The Phantom Menace. Obviously,
Just seem to
I needed
watch
to
it.
devote some of that time to new content.
Watch Our Flag Means Death with me.
I mean, I have adjacently. We haven't sat down for it yet, but
You
I've
don't-
actually been trying to find that. Where is that?
It's on HBO.
mhm.
HBO. Okay.
It's
Yep.
so good, dude. It is. Nah. If I could give a disgustingly wet chef's kiss,
It's a disgustingly wet one.
Can't wait for Taika's Star Wars to see who he'll piss
It's
off with his progressive
just gonna be
sta-
Our Flag
space
Means
politics.
Death in space.
Jesus.
He's gonna
I'm
kiss
okay with
so
that.
many people on the mouth.
I'm okay if it's Hondo in space. Like, you know what?
I feel
Um,
like Hondo would be a very good conduit for chaotic energy for Taika.
For sure. If you've got to put a known character in there, he's one of your best choices.
Yeah, Hondo. Oh God, that would piss my wife off.
Or Jar Jar, the Star Wars story. I'm game for that as well.
That would piss off far more people than anything else.
Oh, but Ahmed Best would be amazing at it. Yes, and one last one because we talked around that episode, but we never definitively said. But yes, that is my
That is
favorite
very good.
Mhm.
episode for sure of Rebels.
Wow.
Twilight of the Apprentice, mentioned by Brennan here. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there with that, or like the Mandalorian stuff with Maul, like
Mhm.
when he takes on Pre Vizsla and um, all the stuff we've mentioned with facing Palpatine and everything. It's definitely neck and neck with that for overall.
Mhm.
But
yeah.
you can't go wrong with Maul. If we've established anything in tonight's episode,
No, you
and
can't.
there's much more we could have done.
Middies.
I shouted out Son of Dathomir, but
Middies.
that's a great one.
Middies.
Star Wars Infinities, you mentioned that one
Star Wars
again.
Infinities.
Star Wars Age of Republic has a Maul one-shot issue that's very good. And then also there's also just non-canon stuff that's good. We mentioned Shadowhunter. There's some Darth Maul comics that are out there as well. You can't go wrong. And so maybe we've encouraged you to check out Maul more. Maybe we've only furthered your existing passion for the character. Who knows? But we certainly had fun talking
yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
And again, this is something we're doing often now, and every now and then character study of some of our favorites. So if you want someone in particular on the list, you can let us know on Twitter or Instagram or on this very episode if you're watching on YouTube. And so, yeah, maybe your favorite character will get their own spotlight.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next week?
What are we talking about next week? So, as I mentioned up top, this has been a week that has prevented me from really putting in
Yep.
even remotely the amount of effort that I did last week. So, nonetheless, we do have a little bit of a tease for our lovely listeners.
When the big man was killed, you must have wanted it. Its blood was on the leaves.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
We are talking
Get
about
an answer.
Predator.
Have a seat.
Yes.
Would you like some pizza?
We are going to be spending a lot of time talking about Prey and looking back over the years and how it stacks up to the rest of the franchise. Spoiler alert, it stacks up very high.
Boy, is it stacked.
But yeah, so it's going to be quite the brocast. A lot of testosterone from everyone
I'm gonna grow a
because
mustache.
we're digitally going to recreate the Dylan moment.
Dylan.
Husband Dylan. Yeah.
Pencils. But yes, so very excited about that. If it's not clear on past episodes, that's a franchise and obviously a character actor I'm particularly fond of. So it's going to be a great
Couldn't tell.
one. Lots of fun. So we hope you'll join us next week, hopefully on Friday, hopefully at 9 p.m. Hopefully.
We'll see.
At this point, I'm just taking it day by day, my dudes. But
Go with the flow, baby.
thank you for joining us. Thank you to our patrons. And yeah, stay scruffy.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.